All right.
Well, good afternoon. I'm going to call to order the February 23rd meeting of the Mobile Tree Commission. And I'm going to start by calling a list of our members to see who is present for the meeting today. Louise McClelland.
I'm here.
Jason McDaniel here. Teresa Tessner.
Here.
Evan Cox. William Rooks.
I'm here.
And Terry Plochet. Okay. Going to move now to the adoption of the agenda. Of course, as you all know, due to the pandemic and pursuant to the proclamations by Governor Kay Ivey as it relates to public meetings, the Mobile Tree Commission is using a video technology for this meeting and is being live streamed to the public through the city's website. I want to say thank you to all the city employees who are helping us out with our meeting today, and to all of the viewers who are tuning in. With that being said, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda and certify that all of the items on the agenda are a part of the minimum essential functions of the Tree Commission.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda as discussed. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say no. The ayes have it. So we have an adopted agenda before us. And we're going to move now to approval of minutes. And I'm going to ask Mr. Rooks, as our Secretary Treasurer, to guide us through this section.
I have not seen, I have the Treasury report. I did not see if we have any updated minutes.
Okay, so then no minutes to review, and we'll move to the Treasurer's report, William.
Okay, the Treasurer's report, this is as of January. We do not have the latest bank statement for February, but started $38,863.09. We did have a $2,000 donation from U.S. Machine Services, and that brings us up to $40,863.09.
Okay, thank you, William, for that update on the Treasurer's report. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve that?
So moved.
All right, we got a motion from Louise.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the Treasurer's report? And hearing none, I'm going to ask if you would please indicate approval of the Treasurer's report by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. All right, and the ayes have it. We're going to move right along into our permit requests. On the agenda this evening, we have 2 permit requests, and the first item is at 260 Michigan Avenue, pruning limbs on One Live Oak on Everett Street side. Want to invite the applicant to speak to this as a part of our public hearing on the permit request. If there's anyone here on the call that can speak to this permit request, now would be the time for us to do that. All right, I don't see anyone listed unless I'm missing something here. I'm gonna check the participants. I'm not hearing anyone to speak to this particular request. All right, in the past, when we have had permit requests on our agenda and we did not have anyone appear to speak to that permit request, our past practice has been to, just hold that over to the next meeting to see if we can, get someone to appear. So
Well, Jesse, I see on the note from the staff that Urban Forester had, I guess, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys had gone out there, taken a look at it and recommended that they put a 311 call into you guys to let the city take care of whatever pruning is necessary to meet.
Yes, yes, and if y'all would like to meet me on site to see what I'm talking about, it's some overextended limbs that are basically 3 foot above the sidewalk, and it's some limbs that are within a foot of his house, and it originates from a city tree. So it's blocking the sidewalk, and it can be easily reduction pruned. It's routine maintenance, to be honest with you.
And did you actually speak with the applicant when you were out on the site?
I spoke to him on the phone. He had a worker out there.
Okay, so, I mean, are they, were they okay with, taking the route that you had suggested to them?
Well, what I told him, Teresa, I told him, hey, you could pay for somebody to do this, but you pay taxes for an urban forestry department. So, I mean, if he wanted to submit it through 311, we take care of it that way, because it was some definite access issues to get around the corner. I told him, I said, you can do whichever way you want. I said, this is not just an aesthetic change on a tree. This is genuine. It's blocking a piece of city infrastructure. That's why I told him, I said, you could do it that way.
Because I can't tell from the permit application, the information that we were sent, whether the recommendation that you have is the exact, is what he's asking for, if they're completely overlapping or if there's any difference between the two.
I just told him, I said, if you want to proceed forward, do it. I said, if not, you can submit a 311 because it falls within the rules and guidelines.
I can't really tell whether the applicant is wanting to proceed since he's not here today.
Peter, I appreciate you saying that earlier. My advice to the tree commission here is to consider the person's not here to speak to it. They submitted a permit request, so our past practice has been just to hold it over. So I'm going to say that would be my preference.
Okay.
All right, so would somebody like to make a motion?
Just to be clarified, have we made a motion on that in the past?
Yeah, we would need a motion to take any action. So if we want to hold this over, we would just need a motion to bring it back next month, give the person opportunity to appear. And if they don't, then we would just, move on.
I just don't recall us taking that, but I'll make a motion to hold it over for one additional meeting.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to hold this item over for one additional meeting. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to ask if you're in favor of the motion, please let it be known by the sign of aye.
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 All those opposed, please say no. And so the ayes have it. Moving on to permit request number 2. It's at 459 Bel Air Boulevard. Remove 7 pine trees along Television Avenue to allow for the installation of a sidewalk. And so I'm going to go ahead and ask if there's anyone here to represent this permit request for Bel Air Boulevard, removing the 7 pine trees along Television Avenue. Would you please unmute yourself and let us know you're here?
Yes, Eric Jackson with Row Engineering. Can you hear me?
Hey, Eric. Yes, we can hear you. Why don't you go ahead? We're going to open this up for a public hearing on this permit request. If we're going to give those in favor of the request opportunity to speak. So, Mr. Jackson, take it away.
Yeah, so as part of the PUD, approved plan unit development for this site, we are required to install sidewalk along, the entire frontage of the property, which abuts Television Avenue. And so, I mean, that's it in a nutshell, is that, in that right-of-way area where the sidewalk is going, there's several trees that need to be removed.
Okay, Mr. Jackson, is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about the request?
Not that I can think of, but I guess want to get some, discussion and answer any questions as needed.
All right, Mr. Jackson, I'm gonna ask you to just kind of stand by if you'll put yourself back on mute. And then I'm gonna see if there's anyone on the line here who would like to speak on this item, either for or against. Please unmute yourself now and let me know that you'd like to be recognized. Okay, so I'm not hearing any additional citizens requesting to speak on that item, so I'm going to close the public hearing portion of the permit request, and now I'm going to move to the tree commissioners and ask if you would like to discuss this or make any motions. Just as a note, Urban Forestry commented that the removal request is recommended for approval only for the trees specified in this permit. There are numerous oaks mixed in with pines and shrubs, but there are some live oaks and mixed in. So has anybody, I rode by this particular place and checked it out so that I could have a little better visual. It looks like there's some development that's going to take place there, and they're trying to put in a sidewalk. And if I'm correct, this is only to take out the pine trees, and it's not affecting anything in the median. It's just, from what I understand, there's a median in Television Avenue with some pine trees and some live oaks growing in it. And then this row of pine trees is on the left side of the road there, of that, where that median would be. So does anybody have any questions about this or would like to make a motion?
I'm confused. Are there live oaks mixed in the pine trees right where they're wanting to put the sidewalk, or the mix of live oaks is in that kind of median area in the middle of the street? Because the site plan only says pine trees. They don't indicate any live oaks. They also didn't indicate the shrubs that are there in that section of
So
right away.
This is Eric. So from our standpoint, I spoke with Joel from Urban Forestry yesterday, and they were saying, there are some small live oaks in that area. And as far as us showing on the site plan, it was strictly an oversight. We were out there in the initial survey. I just had told my guys to locate, everything 12 inches and over. And, street view from Google Earth, it looked like, just dense shrubs other than that. So, if there is anything else, then we missed it.
Also, I have a question is whether there's a sidewalk on the other side of the street for that particular building to the south, I guess is what it looks like.
On Television Avenue,
Yeah.
there is not. I was looking hard at, if there's any way to avoid sidewalk at all.
So have you guys, you haven't asked for a variance to not have to put a sidewalk in?
No, and honestly, that's from standpoint of knowing that 99% it's going to be denied.
Well, I think from our point of view, to put in a sidewalk there when across the street, they don't have one, they must have gotten a variance. And to take out live oaks and, other mature trees, even if they are pines and they seem okay, seems like, I'd rather keep the trees, especially since I'm not quite sure who all's going to be wanting to use the sidewalk in the middle of what looks like mostly very, commercial area.
Yeah, I agree. And the unofficial feedback during the planning commission, I tried to make a comment of saying those things, and basically it was put with, you must apply for a sidewalk waiver. Basically, those comments wouldn't be acknowledged. And, but there were some planning commission people saying, oh, no, this is they saw it as being a prime spot for sidewalk. And I guess according to the future land use map, that yes, it is.
Okay.
So I'm going to jump in here and just ask a question for information. So the permit request before us right here, it involves 7 pine trees along Television Avenue. What I'm hearing is that there are other trees besides those 7 pine trees that need to be dealt with.
Yeah, I can't tell you without knowing for sure where they are located. That if yes or no, they'd have to be removed.
Okay,
Yes.
Eric, let me just push pause for you real quick. I want to ask Joe Potter if you'll unmute yourself. Mr. Jackson said he met you out there. Can you kind of answer my question for me?
Sure. Essentially, the whole thing is full. It's just chock full of pines, photinium or red top, whatever you want to call it, big shrub. And then mixed in there are a bunch of smaller size water oaks, just volunteer type thing. But then there are about, let's say, roughly half a dozen. I had them counted yesterday. It might have been 7 live oaks. Most of them, they're all between 6 and I'm going to say about 12 inches. There was one that was definitely at least 12. The majority of them have pretty poor structure because they've just grown in that shrubbery and they're kind of shaped like this. I think I attached a couple of pictures of a couple of them that were shaped like that and pointed back towards the parking lot or or the empty lot. But the majority of them aren't very, they look pretty wonky, I guess would be the word. And I would say I couldn't even tell you how many little water oaks are in there mixed in.
So my understanding of we are supposed to make decisions about trees that are over a certain size in the city right away. I'd like for us to be able to do that here. I guess my issue is that we don't have an accurate request here. And so if we don't have an accurate permit request, I don't really know, how you make a motion to approve that. I mean, I'm open to listening to my colleagues, but it seems like maybe we should have more vetted permit requests.
Hey, Jesse, that's kind of where my mind was going was, in the past, we've seen pretty, I do see some information here, but based on some information we've had in the past, I think we've had more detailed of exactly what trees are coming out, having those identified. That's the one thing that's making me hesitant right now to really kind of support.
Okay.
Could you guys walk us through exactly what's the criteria that has to be identified as far as size?
Jackson, we'd be happy to do that. We're going to ask that you just kind of give us a moment to deliberate and decide what we're going to do.
Okay.
But certainly we can work with you on what the criteria are and exactly what needs to be in the permit if that's what we decide to do. So if you'll just push pause until we have a question. So tree commissioners, what's your pleasure on this permit request?
I think we definitely need more information, a more detailed staff report of what's there, condition, I'm not sure that the trees or all the trees should come out for a sidewalk. I mean, just based on that, I mean, the pine trees, are the pine trees healthy? I mean, I need to know what all is there and whether they, you know, whether they're healthy to stay. You know, because that to me, that's the way. I wouldn't want to take out good trees just to put a sidewalk in. I'd say get a variance and don't put the sidewalk in, or have the people, you know, people across the street didn't have to put a sidewalk in. I don't want to take out good trees for a sidewalk when a variance is possible, especially, you know, good trees. So I think we need more information.
My hesitation is looking at it. Doesn't look like there's a lot of, sometimes downtown, other streets, they can move the sidewalk back. It looks pretty tight and congested in there. I do worry that simply because the reason why other areas in there don't have sidewalks is they're simply older, right? I think it's going to be that, as they go forward, I would be fine with them asking for the waiver. I personally would be surprised if they get it based on everything I've heard about the city and how they're moving forward. But I do think it's beneficial at least to have a definitive understanding of exactly what trees we're talking about. I personally don't think it'll change the outcome based on how tight that looks in there, but I think it's useful nonetheless.
All right, so in order to take any action, we would need a motion in order to do something. So would anyone like to make a motion with regard to this permit request?
I would make a motion that to hold over for an additional meeting to provide more detailed information of the trees specifically impacted.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to hold this item over pending further information. Would any of the tree commissioners have any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and ask if you would please signify your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, please say no. And the ayes have it. So this is going to be held over. I know Mr. Jackson's still on the call. We want to get you the information that you need outside of this meeting so that we can get this squared away for our next meeting in March, because we do want to consider your request. Unfortunately, we don't have complete information here. So we're going to ask that you provide that and come back to us next month. But we will follow up with you in terms of what you need. All right, so I'm going to move now to the next part of the agenda. And I'm going to take a point of privilege here to move up our urban forestry work summary and our Alabama Power work summary. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want to give our guys opportunities to, share their information. But I feel like we may take a while on some of the other business, so I don't want to keep them waiting until the very end. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Peter Toller if you'll unmute yourself and then, kind of give us your work summary.
All right, so everybody can hear me okay. All right, so thankfully, it's good to say this is a map where I'm showing you where it's not a bunch of severe weather impact.
What happened?
Sorry about that. Okay, now can y'all hear me at the same time?
Yes.
Okay, so this month we've had work in this area. We've had contract crews in this area and over in the Mundy South area. Some of these have been emergencies, just purely a random rotten tree, something else. It's been a fairly quiet month. Nothing really exciting to report, just that's where we've been. Our internal crew has been down in the Wednesday South area, low limbs, dead wood, just nothing too exciting.
So I have a couple questions, Peter. I tried to look at this ahead of time and go through some of the items that you have marked there. And I just wrote down a few things that I wanted to ask questions about, and I'm sure my fellow commissioners would find this helpful as well.
Sure.
Um, so what is debris? I noticed that some of these were just marked debris and it gave an address. That doesn't really help me understand what was taking place there.
It could be a debris complaint generated to where some limbs were cut, put on the side of the road, and someone's saying, "Hey, that's been sitting there too long. Please come pick it up." That's all it is.
Okay, I saw a couple marked that way. And then on another one on Williams Street, 609 Williams Street, we had tree. I guess the tree was removed because it was growing into sewer. This is at 609 Williams Street.
No, on that, the status of it, Jesse, is no issue spotted. We try to include every request that comes in. And the reason why it was marked as completed is we marked it to where, Joel, did you go to 609 Williams?
I'll be honest, I don't remember. I'd have to have the thing in front of me.
Yeah, 609 Williams, Jesse, is right down near Murphy, I believe. And it was marked no issue spotted.
Oh, okay. Because I guess I wasn't able to see that on the dot, but also very near there, Peter, in the same general area over there at Hunter Avenue and Houston Street, it said that we had an obstructed view, and there was it said request removal obstructed view. And so I know Houston Street is one of our, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is on our tree trail list. And I wanted to ask about this particular tree.
Yeah, I actually went to this, Jesse, and marked it no issue spotted. I specifically remember going to this. There was nothing to do there.
Okay, great. And final question. Well, I actually they're related, but on Myrtle Avenue, there was one that said requested to be trimmed over the limbs over the house. So it wasn't sure on something like that, if it's requested to be trimmed because it's hanging over the house, I'm just kind of wondering why that wouldn't come to the tree commission.
Well, if it's hanging over a house and physically touching the house, and if it's a city-owned tree, we go reduction prune it off the house to prevent any more continuous damage to happen to the roof.
All right, and then 1853 Neighbors Drive, there was a request removal. It just said request removal, and it had a note that it was complete, but I wasn't sure if that meant that it had been removed or if how it was complete.
Let me look on here one moment.
So that does bring up is there a way to do this report where you can when you click on it, you actually will get kind of more of the information that we used to get in the spreadsheet? Can they be combined somehow?
I'll tinker with it and see if I can, Teresa. That's a good question.
Because I had a couple like that too. I just to pull them up randomly just to kind of see what was going on. And, when all you see is completed, you don't know whether you completed the call. Doesn't mean you know what the action was. I don't know when the request went in, when you actually got it, So again, it would also be good to know, when did that request for the limbs to be trimmed come in? And now it got completed in January, but did it come in during January, or did it come in December, or last year, January? Be good for us to be able to know kind of how that workflow is going.
Sure. Absolutely.
Peter, I know that you're doing a good job by trying to get us this information because we've asked you for it, and so we're grateful for this technology. I think that we're just, kind of hungry for more information, and I certainly don't want to waste your time asking you questions about properties that you've already evaluated and there was nothing done. So, if at least we could have some more detail on that we would understand it better. I know that you would help us out there if you can at all, and so we appreciate what you're trying to do here. So, any other questions for Peter? All right, so Peter, thank you so much for your, your hard work and your team. I know that y'all are out there every day working hard for the city of Mobile, so we appreciate that. And I'm going to ask if Eric Garrett is on the call from Alabama Power. Eric, do you want to give us a work summary or update for Alabama Power?
Sure, Jesse. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay, Jesse?
Yeah.
Okay. We Jesse, don't have a whole lot going on inside the metro footprint right now. Most of our work is going on outside Mobile, proper Mobile city limits. We did have some work out around West Grelot Road. That work has been wrapped up. There's still just a little bit over the Williams area and in Metropolis. Most of all we're doing right now, though, is just patrolling for immediate hotspot work on those breakers. There's not really a whole lot of removals happening. It's just trimming for still storm damage cleanup and routine maintenance clearance on those lines. There'll be some work coming up around Wheelerville area later in the year. And like I said, once I get the schedule lined out on when exactly that type of work starts to happen, we'll notify the city and tree commission like we always have in the past, just to try to give you guys a heads up and let y'all know where we're going to be. But right now it's mostly in the outside the Mobile area where I have crews working.
Okay. Eric, appreciate it. Does any tree commissioner want to ask Eric any questions while we got him here? All right. Well, I'm not hearing any questions, Eric, so you're getting off the hook pretty easy.
All right, I'll take it easy now.
Hey, I'm gonna follow up with you on the Duffy thing, and I'm gonna explain that a little more to the tree commissioners here in a few minutes.
Sure. Yeah, that's something that's on our priority list for sure to work with the city on and work with the tree commission on.
Okay.
I'm trying to get that scheduled, and it'll probably come in the next week, maybe two at the most. I really want to have it done by now, but we've had a lot of resources outsourced because of the ice storm issues, and still have some crews up in North Alabama won't be back till Thursday. So kind of thrown our local schedule a little bit off, but it's still something that should easily be done in the next week or two at the most.
All right. Eric, thank you so much. We're going to stay in touch with you. And hearing no other questions for Eric or Peter, I'm going to move on to the next section of our agenda, which is under old business. I'm going to ask that our Vice Chair, Teresa Tessner, give us the best, synopsis that she can for where we are with our Chapter 65 tree protections ordinance, as well as, the UDC and how this is affected by the Chapter 65. So Teresa, will you take it away and kind of bring us up to speed?
Sure. So, today the city council met, and the question remains about taking 64-4H out of the current zoning, Chapter 64, and making a new tree protection and management chapter, Chapter 65. So they're still working on that. Today, at today's city council meeting, they agreed to hold it to table it for now, and they're going to have another, it was put into committee, I guess about 2 weeks ago. And so they're going to have another committee meeting. It's in the Administrative Services Committee, which is chaired by Gina Gregory. The other two members are Bess Rich and Fred Richardson. And so they are going to be having a committee meeting on that March 9th at 1 o'clock. So this afternoon, I received a revised draft for Chapter 65. Chris Arledge, the City Council's lawyer, had gone through it and had taken to try to incorporate some of the things that had come up when we spoke at the last Administrative Services Committee meeting. So he's cleaned that up some. Peter, you and I'll have to get together and kind of go, but it looked like he kind of cleaned up the protection section and kind of put some things together and made it read a little bit better, and took into account some of the things that you had suggested during the meeting. They moved the heritage tree size down to 18 inches. It had been at 24 in the previous draft. So they moved it down to 18 inches. So it's still a work in progress. So hopefully at the next Administrative Services Committee meeting, we can continue to have good dialogue and make a really good, strong tree protections ordinances. It's definitely going in the right direction. Peter's worked really hard on making it a much better ordinance than the old chapter was, and so that's good. But like we know, the devil's in the details, and I think the thing now is to try to get good protections delineated and make sure that building or permitting or somehow can kind of interface with urban forestry or comparable expert to make sure that what needs to be done to protect the trees is done. So that's where that is. And then UDC public comment, the hearing on that is Thursday. The Planning Commission is having a hearing. And so I've signed up to speak for that, and I will be presenting the Tree Commission's concerns on the landscaping portion of the zoning code, not the tree protections, because that's going to be coming out into Chapter 65. But I'll reiterate the fact that they've moved down that, one tree for every 50 feet, instead it used to be one for 30 feet. That continues to be a concern. And then just landscape planning, the landscape plan and how that will get permitted and overseen, again, to know what trees need to stay, how they're going to be protected, and that sort of thing. Those are the things I have set to talk with them about at the hearing. And of course, if you guys have any particular concerns you've seen in reading the UDC, I'll be happy to talk, let them know about those too. So that's where we are.
All right, I just want to take a minute here to say thank you, Teresa, for all your hard work. I know we all get very busy and doing different things in our lives, but you've really been on top of this UDC stuff and the emerging issues with Chapter 65. And so these are very important topics for trees in the city. They may be kind of a snore for some of our citizens because of how complicated it can get and how detailed it can get. But it's very important from a tree standpoint that we have a voice in this debate over tree protections. And so I just want everybody on the call to know that Teresa's working very hard, and she's been leading this effort for the Tree Commission, and we're grateful for her leadership on this matter. So Teresa, any way that I can help you, I'm going to try to do that.
Thank you.
Does any of the tree commissioners other than Teresa want to ask a question or have a comment about the UDC or Chapter 65?
No, I mean, I was just going to add, I do appreciate everything you've done on that. It sounds like it's moving in the right direction. I do think it's been pretty good support. I did have some pretty good dialogues with Bess, and it sounds like she's been supportive of some of these conversations as well. So
Yeah,
it's
I
good to
think
see the communication working. I think it is beneficial when we're all tied to a city council representative, and I think that's helpful.
All right. I will just say one thing. I mean, I think it, especially, again, for any from the citizenry that might be watching, I think it's somewhat, because we're talking about tree protections and landscape requirements and private property and public property and street rights of way, is very complicated. And the tree commission has, we have our role to play in the protections directly for the street trees, the right-of-way trees, but we still do have a mandate to protect, to promote trees even on private property. And that's why we've tried to act as a stakeholder in this, just to, we don't want to control every tree in the city as a tree commission. We really wanted just to act more as a stakeholder for the trees in general, to try to, bring more people to the table to talk about how could we get a really good tree protections ordinance in place to position Mobile for the future, to position Mobile to protect and promote the great infrastructure that trees are for the city, not just aesthetics. So just want to clarify that.
Very good point. So we're going to keep working on this. Chapter 65 is something that is, as Teresa mentioned, coming back up on March the 9th. This is a brand new tree ordinance under revision and editing as we speak, coming back to the Administrative Services Committee on March the 9th at 1 p.m. Tree commissioners are welcome to participate in that. We will be having some conversations before that time. So please plug in and learn more about what's going on. With that being said, I'd like to move ahead in the agenda to number 2 under old business. Wanted to talk a little bit about some potential actions to improve the Duffy oak. For those of you that may be listening or watching that don't know, the Duffy oak is a magnificent live oak tree on Carolyn Avenue, kind of tucked away behind the Alabama School of Math and Science. If you've never driven by there, you need to, because it's a monster tree. And if you spend enough time walking around over there, you'll see that there's some room for improvement in terms of ways that we can help this tree. I don't know an exact estimate on the age, but it's been around as long as the United States has been a country, maybe longer. And so we want to try to save this tree because it's truly part of Mobile's heritage. And I don't know if it was Peter or somebody that told me that it was Mobile's oldest living resident, and that has to be true. Anyway, so since the last tree commission meeting in January, we wanted to look at some ways that maybe we could improve this tree. And there are several things that Peter, Eric, Garrett, and myself were able to discuss when we met out there at the Duffy Oak 2 or 3 weeks ago. And one of the things that kind of came out of that brainstorming that we did was a couple of options that we could do to improve the tree. Number one, we could contract with a certified arborist to remove the camphor trees that are growing up through the limbs of the Duffy oak. So if you were to go study this tree, you would see immediately what I'm talking about. But you have these limbs from this live oak tree that stretch out very far, and then under the branches, you have these trash trees, camphor trees, that are growing up through those magnificent branches. And so one option was to try to contract with someone who is a professional that can safely remove all of the trash trees that are currently growing under the canopy of the Duffy oak. And you may say, well, why do we need to do that? Peter, you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, if I say anything out of turn here, but all of those trash trees are competing with the Duffy oak for water. There's at least 8 or 10 camphor trees growing under the Duffy oak that need to be removed because they are competitors, and we don't want anything competing with that oak tree for water, because we want to preserve that tree for as long as humanly possible. So that's one option. Now, if we were to do that, there's a couple things that would have to happen. We would have to get permission from the apartment complex, which is adjacent to this right of way where this oak tree sits, because the limbs do stretch over into an apartment complex property, and we would have to secure permission from that property owner in order to come on their property and trim some of those camphor trees that we're talking about. All indications at this point are that the property owner there would be favorable, because this would be improving their property. However, there's one small issue involving a fence that's growing under that is placed under the Duffy oak, and it has some of those camphor trees kind of growing in and through that chain link fence, and it's, mangled the fence in a lot of places. And so if we are going to come in there and try to improve this tree, we really need to be able to take out that mangled chain link fence and remove those trees that are growing in and through the fence. So that's a little bit of an issue, but again, we're working through this. A second option that we could do to improve the Duffy oak would be possibly air spading some of the mulch and stuff away from the surface roots of this tree. Peter will tell you that, over time, people and nature sometimes can push debris and mulch up on a tree and cover the roots that are, surface roots. And so one of the techniques in order to remedy this is to use an air spading tool. And this is something that certified arborists can do in order to make the tree more healthy, allow the roots to breathe more, and also to be able to fertilize around the roots of the tree in order to help it grow and sustain it longer. So those were two options that we came up with that would involve the tree commission possibly contracting with a certified arborist to do that work. One thing that I see Eric's name still on the call, one of the things that we talked about with Alabama Power that day was that, there are some limited areas involving power lines at the Duffy Oak. And so, before we were to engage one of these options to improve the tree, we want to give Alabama Power the opportunity to get out there and carefully and very, very gently make sure that the area is safe in terms of the power lines. The transmission lines are really not threatening, they're really not that tangled up in this tree at all. There just has to be a certain clearance from the transmission lines to the top of these limbs at the Duffy Oak. And so there needs to be a little bit of work done by the power company. And, we're going to ask Alabama Power to schedule that. And Eric and I have been in conversations about a potential date to schedule this work to be done. And you heard him say earlier that we're going to try to put that together in the next couple of weeks. And tree commissioners, you're going to hear about that when it does happen, because we want everybody to know. And then we also want to encourage at least one person to be down there observing the work while it's being done. Again, this is a legendary tree. It's certainly worth all of this effort. You may ask yourself, why are we talking about this tree? Just go by there and see it, and you'll understand. So there's a lot that we can do there. One final point on this, I have reached out directly to the manager of the apartment complex there. Her name is LaShawn, and she's been very helpful. in terms of meeting with us and discussing some of the ideas. She is not able to authorize that work herself, so she has forwarded a written request that I provided her to the owner of the property, and she told me today when I checked with her that she expected hopefully in the next couple of weeks to have an answer. So that is a very quick overview of what's going on with the Duffy Oak on Carolyn Avenue. And we certainly want to continue to work over there. There's some other things that we can do rather easily just to clean it up and to rake leaves and stuff. But the Duffy Oak is a very important tree. And when we get to the point where we're ready to revitalize the Mobile Tree Trail, which tree commissioners, you have heard about the last couple of meetings from Mr. Andrew Blavos, who is working with us on that project to revitalize Mobile's tree trail. The Duffy Oak would be a prominent factor in that tree trail, and so we really do have a long game here that we're playing to try to improve this tree and use it to help educate the public about the importance of trees in our community. So with all that being said, does anybody want to ask any questions about the Duffy Oak specifically, or anything that I've reported to you about kind of some of the actions that we're looking at?
So Jesse, are we in the process of getting bids from an arborist for taking out that, or are we going to wait and see what that the property owner is okay with? What's it going to take to be able to, do that before we start, calling for the bid?
Yeah, great question, Teresa. And to answer your question, I have sent out a preliminary request for certified arborists who might be interested in the work to, notify us and to send us a proposal for the two options, which I spelled out earlier about the removal of the camphor trees and also the air spading of the roots and the fertilization that would be possible there. And so I have not gotten any response to that yet. Peter and I had emailed about resending that to try to encourage some of our partners who are certified arborists in the city to make an offer or to make a bid on what we're trying to accomplish over there, so that you and I and everybody else on this tree commission can make an informed decision about, hey, can we spend this amount of money to remove these camphor trees, or can we spend this amount of money to fertilize the tree? So, in order to make those kinds of decisions, we got to have the right information. And so hopefully, Teresa, to get to your question, by the next time we meet, we will have hopefully something that we can act on. I apologize that we don't have that today, but it's not for lack of trying, okay?
Yeah, no, the wheels turn slowly.
They do turn slowly. So, but that we've been working over the last few weeks on this tree, and we're going to keep doing that. We're at a bit of a standstill right now, but before our next meeting, we should have some more information and this is a very exciting project. So I encourage you all to, get involved with it if you can. Any other questions about the Duffy Oak or anything going on there?
Oh, and maybe before we leave that, to give a shout out to Peter for the effort that he organized for the Boynton, to do the air spading there and clean up. That tree looks so good since it got its air spading done. That's thank you to Peter for that.
Challenge to all the tree commissioners. Lots of work to do. Y'all get your gloves.
Yeah, Teresa, you got a little bit ahead of me, but I'm glad you
sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm glad you brought it up. We certainly want to recognize any volunteer that does help the tree commission and the city of Mobile. And so Peter did a great job by, working out there at the Boynton Oak. And let's move ahead to the new business. We've got a couple of things to talk about, and I want us to just kind of take a minute to make sure we get these things covered. Number one under new business is committee assignments. We haven't talked about our committees this year, but I do have some ideas about some appointments on the Public Relations Committee, and then I'm going to ask that we go ahead and let's just handle that real quickly. I want to appoint Andrew Blavos officially to the Public Relations Committee for the Mobile Tree Commission. Currently, he's working in just an individual capacity as a volunteer, and we're very grateful for what he's doing on the tree trail project. I want to tell you all that I actually got to preview a website. It's a very simple website that he has designed, but it's very effective in that when we're ready to kind of launch or relaunch the Mobile Tree Trail, Andrew has already put into place a website where citizens in the city can go and tell us about their favorite tree and tell us why it's their favorite tree and where is it and what kind of tree is it. So it's a way for us, hopefully as the Mobile Tree Commission, to gather some really nice specimens of trees for the Mobile Tree Trail revitalization. And so Andrew is already kind of designing that landing page for citizens to be able to do that, and certainly want to continue to take advantage of any volunteer work that Mr. Blavos wants to do, because he's a very talented public relations professional. And so I want to appoint him to the Public Relations Committee. And then I also wanted to ask any other tree commissioners if they would like to be on that specific committee. Again, what I see happening here with this is the PR committee is going to be primarily responsible for the tree trail project, and then any external communications. That's so. The chair is by ex officio on all committees, and so obviously I would be on the PR committee, but I definitely wanted to appoint Mr. Blavos. And then our bylaws give me the authority to appoint members of the standing committees. I don't believe that we need a motion in order for any of that to take effect with Mr. Blavos. But we do need a motion and some discussion about creating a special committee. And so when all of the business about the UDC began years ago, the Mobile Tree Commission has been, kind of vigilant, and we've been reviewing that document, offering input. William, you remember, we've been doing this for a while. And earlier versions of the UDC, we've been submitting that input because we're a stakeholder and we care about the trees. But as we've gotten to present day, obviously the UDC has changed substantially as it relates to trees, and that Chapter 65, as we mentioned, has been pulled out from the UDC, and it's going to be a standalone ordinance. So over the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've had kind of an ad hoc committee of people working on Chapter 65. That effort has been led by our vice chair, but I wanted to ask the Tree Commission if we could make that a formal committee so that it has some, some added authority, and we can call it a special committee on, Chapter 65, or special committee on tree protections, ordinance, whatever we decide to call it. But I would like for there to be a possible motion that we create a special committee to continue to work on Chapter 65 as we go, because as we stated earlier, this is going to stretch into March and probably into the middle of March. at the earliest. So anybody else want to, Teresa, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've, with the idea of trying to get additional input from other stakeholders in the community, I've got a couple of people who are willing to participate in this committee if we do form it. So if I can put some names before the rest of the commission right now of folks that I know are willing to work with us on that special committee. So we've got a couple of, non-tree commission folks that are at this point that are willing to serve. I would be willing to serve on that as well. So that would get us to 4 folks for the committee at this point. And maybe if we've got other tree commissioners who would like to participate, or perhaps other tree commissioners might know someone within their particular sphere of influence that they would want to, they think would be a good adjunct to it. I think we could add some more folks too.
And I would say, if you're supportive, if you have people in mind, if you want to make a motion, I'd be happy to support it. Unfortunately, like I said, for me, it's very difficult based on my job to get free during the day, but I am very appreciative you are leading that up. Definitely that deserves recognition, and that you have people as well. So I don't feel comfortable making the motion because right now I'm not able to support it, but I'd be happy to second it if you want to put that on the table.
Okay.
Person.
So I'd like to put a motion on the table to create a special committee to deal with Chapter 65 and tree protections in general. Jesse, should I go ahead and put my committee members out there, the ones I want to bring in from outside, or we'll do that next?
Let's do that next.
Okay. All right.
And I'll second that. So.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to create a special committee on Chapter 65, tree protections, tree ordinance going forward. This committee is envisioned to, only exist as long as it needs to design and implement, the tree protection ordinance. So it is going to be limited in terms of but we certainly need a committee. We've had an ad hoc committee, but we want to make it formal. And so, Teresa, thank you for your motion. Is there any further discussion for the Tree Commission about the creation of a special committee for this purpose? All right, hearing no further discussion, I'm going to ask if you're in favor of the motion, please let it be known by a sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. All right, hearing none, the ayes have it. And we have created a special committee as stated. Now, Teresa, do you want to put forward some names of people that you know that may want to be on the committee?
Yeah, so Debbie Foster, who is very active for the Dog River and Peninsula communities. And is very much interested in tree preservation for those for the stormwater, especially mitigation that they provide. So, and she is willing to serve. I think she'll be a great addition to the committee. And then Bill Boswell, who helped kind of broker that, effort to save some of the oak trees along the Broad Street project that were going to come down because of the Tiger grant. He was involved in helping get, some more of those oak trees saved. So he's very active in the community, and trees are also one of his passions for the city of Mobile. So, and he's said that he would serve, and I think he would be also a very good participant for the committee. So those are the 2 folks that I would like to have appointed to the committee. that are from outside the tree commission.
Okay. And as you know, or to those listening who may not know, you do not have to be a tree commissioner to serve on a committee of the tree commission. So if you, as some citizens do, have a strong passion for trees and their welfare, then you certainly can volunteer to serve on a on a committee of the Mobile Tree Commission, and we encourage that. We are grateful that Debbie Foster and Bill Boswell are willing to continue to work on this issue because it is so important. Both of these folks have some expertise, and we're grateful that they're willing to offer their time. And then, of course, Teresa, thank you so much for being willing to lead on that. And I would like to appoint Teresa Tessner, Bill Boswell, and Debbie Foster to this special committee on Chapter 65 tree ordinance. I'll just say without objection. So that those individuals will be appointed to the committee that's been created. We'll be talking more about Chapter 65 over the next few weeks, and I'm sure at our next meeting in March, we'll probably have an update for you at that time.
And William, I mean, you have such a great relationship with Bess, and Bess is very engaged in this. Yeah. And I think because of her, she also sits on the plan. I'd be calling on you for some behind the scenes.
I'm more than happy to help. And like I said, you know, especially with someone that demands my job once in a while, especially during the day.
Yeah, it's a big time commitment, but if
you
I've
are
got a
free
specific task.
we are due for a cup of coffee and get back together again. So just give me a reason and we'll get it set up. So
all right, good.
Yeah, but I'll be glad to help. So
thank you.
A long agenda tonight, so y'all get you a cup of coffee. We're gonna keep plowing through. But I have it on my computer. I'm not sure you have it.
Let me see if I can do that. Hang on. Is the setting there for you, Jesse?
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, let me figure out where I disabled it.
If we can manage, if not, I mean, it's no big deal. I can talk more or less just about what's on here. If you figure that out, let me know. I'm going to start talking about the next item, which is annual report to City Council. So I was appointed to the Mobile Tree Commission back 5 or 6 years ago, and I do not recall any time during that 5 or 6 years where the Tree Commission actually submitted an annual report to the City Council. But in working through the Chapter 65 issue and studying Chapter 64, the city ordinance related to tree protections currently, there is a requirement in there that the Tree Commission should submit an annual report to the Mobile City Council as well as to the Planning Commission in order to just report on our activities for the previous 12 months. That report is supposed to be due on March the 1st of every year. And so I went ahead and took the liberty of drafting a annual report to the City Council for the previous 12 months. And I sent that out on email yesterday. I apologize. It was only about 24 hours in advance, but, you know, I got to it as soon as I could and put something together. It's a one-page document that, you know, gives us a overview of the past year and some of the challenges that we faced in terms of virtual meetings and having a 6-member team due to a long-term vacancy. And then we also had, I don't know, y'all remember, we had to cancel one meeting due to a hurricane coming in. So despite those challenges, we have made progress, and we're currently working on the new city ordinance, looking ahead to do more next year. I've got some exciting projects on the drawing board, including the tree trail, and we're expecting some increased communication. And then we went through and highlighted each of our previous 12 months meetings. Let me check and see if I can share my screen now.
Jesse, can you see mine? I'm sharing the report for you.
Yeah, I can see it now. Great, thank you. So you can see there, if you'll scroll it up just a little bit, Peter. So there's just a brief overview. And then if you'll scroll back down now, then there's some dates out here. You can see where there were some meetings canceled. We are also supposed to report on the tree bank. Gave a couple of items there about the tree bank. And Peter, will you scroll on down just a little further? On this bottom section that you see, go back up to November, there you go. So you can see we did have some funds that were allocated for tree planting. That was back in November. And then, we've had a pretty active January and February. One thing I would like to add here is February the 9th, 2021 is when we had the Administrative Services Committee meeting that we spent so much time on, and preparing for that, and then actually going to the meeting and speaking. So I wanted to add that one on for February the 9th. But I felt like it's important for the Tree Commission to make an effort to fulfill its mission and its obligations to the public and to the City Council. It doesn't have to be an extremely detailed report, but we're going to try to improve this report for next year. I think it goes without saying that this was probably the most challenging year on record for public meetings. We've had a lot of challenges, not to mention the hurricanes, but COVID-19 just by itself has been tough. So we haven't been able to do as much this year as we would like, but we do believe that we're positioned to do a lot more in the next year. Prayerfully, COVID-19 will dissipate and we will be able to get back to hopefully somewhat normal times. And I'm going to shut up now. Does anybody want to offer any comments or suggest any changes on this draft? Anything at all?
Just out of curiosity, do we know, are there any other commissions that are required to do the support? I know I sit on the Mobile Historic Development Commission as well, and I've never heard of it. I don't know if there are other samples or if you got this out of a guideline. I'm just curious to see if there's anything else that kind of mirrors this.
Not that I'm aware of, William, but I could be, missing. I just don't know. But the ordinance is really pretty specific about the Tree Commission's annual report. It says that we're supposed to report on X, Y, and Z. And I've sprinkled some of that X, Y, and Z around in this document so that we are meeting the obligation here. But to your question of do we have a comparison, I don't know of one. Like I said,
yeah. I actually do find it does look like an opportunity again. Anytime we could kind of pass along, what we're doing, that we're still active, because as we know, in the last 8 to 10 years, there have been a fair amount of commissions who have existed and no longer really are around. So I do think I do think there's benefit out of it. So I do appreciate taking this initiative. And I was like you, I was kind of going a little crazy because I've been on this now for almost, 6-7 years, and I don't ever remember doing it. So I'm kind of surprised you found that. But I'll look around, and I'll even reach out if you want to Bess and just say, hey, is this something that you guys see from other, is there, so I'll help you out, see if I can see anything. Otherwise, sometimes you put it out for the first time, you get feedbacks, and like you said, you adjust it for the next year. So I can't
Yeah.
hurt. So
Yeah.
again, appreciative. And I do think anytime we can kind of put out there what we're doing, I think that definitely helps.
And Jesse, I might be wrong, but I think on that last draft from chapter 65, I think they removed that requirement.
Oh, they did, the annual
I
report?
think I got to double check it. I mean, I haven't read it closely.
Uh,
So remember you had said, well, we're going to need support from,
Yeah.
from the city if we're going to do this. We need urban forestry to, and so I think they just took it out. So, I mean, not that, but I agree with William. I mean, it's an opportunity to remind the city council of what we're doing and, and
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and look, we'll send, we'll turn this in compliance with the current tree ordinance. It's supposed to be due March the 1st. And if you all would like to, make a motion about approving, the draft as amended, then, we can go ahead and turn it in and then see what we need to do next year.
So moved.
I second it.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the annual report to the city council as amended. Specifically, the amendment was to add an additional item for February the 9th, which just makes a record that the Mobile Tree Commission did give written and verbal input at the Admin Services Committee meeting that day. So that's going to be added. That's the amendment that we're talking about. But is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, I'm not hearing any additional feedback there. So all those in favor of the motion, please let me know by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please say no. Hearing none, the ayes have it. And so I will get that report submitted to the city clerk and ask her to pass that along as required. All right, moving right along. Last month, Louise, I apologize we weren't able to get this on the agenda last month, but you had initiated contact about the tree award signage that currently is in existence over at a convenience store on Old Show Road in Midtown. I believe that is on the corner of Upham.
Old Shell, and I think the sign is gone. I mean, I think somebody took it down. Like
Oh,
10,000 requests.
I don't know. The other day when I went by, it was still there. It
Oh,
kind of moves a little bit and gets.
Yeah,
turned
that's
different
kind of what it.
So,
Well, I wanted to just bring it up, Louise. I know that you brought this to our attention because of, you want to tell us about what motivated you to?
I was embarrassed when I saw that the tree commission had a sign there. I thought, because I'm sure when they first bought it, they spiffed it up and landscaped it. But there's Johnson grass growing up all through the I can't think of the name of the little short shrubs that are there. Rhaphiolepis maybe. It just doesn't look nice. It doesn't look like it should have a tree commission sign. Now they did put in, I think there are several big cypress trees. Will, do you remember? There's maybe 2 or 3 trees that look like cypress trees, and then 2 or 3 other, we weren't sure what they were. So they may brought some trees in, but just, it's not maintained very well, I don't think.
So this is a great topic, and I'm really glad you brought it up because
It's like maybe they're Merle.
Because one of the things I often wonder is when I see these signs that say Mobile Tree Commission, I wonder, where did they come? When did they get put up, and what criteria did they have to meet in order to get the sign? And these are some questions that I don't know the answers to. Since I have been on the Tree Commission, I don't recall us installing any of these signs. So they must have been done, maybe 8 to 10, 12 years ago. I don't know. But certainly if, like in the case of this convenience store, if there's unattractive landscaping, and we certainly don't want to claim it, so I'd like to, hear from you guys about what you think we should do, or Peter, can you talk to us about, do you have any knowledge of when these signs were installed or anything about the signage?
Yeah, I've talked off and on to Cleve, Jesse, about some of these, and some of these were mid 80s, early 90s. Probably the last effort on any sign was 1992 at the latest.
Okay, so we're talking almost what?
Almost 30
ago?
years.
30 years. Okay. Wow. So this could be something that we want to refer to a committee, or to study this issue and talk about what we need to do. But Louise, I'm certainly not in favor of keeping a tree commission sign someplace where it does not serve our purpose. So I know that, I think that's where you're coming from. And I support you on that. It's just a matter of what do we want to do about it.
I mean, do we reach out to the business and say, you need to, if you want to keep your sign, you need to maintain your property better? Do we have that power?
Yeah, I think we can do whatever we want to do. I mean, if you would like to volunteer to speak with the business owner and just let them know that, you're on the tree commission, and that, we're talking about the signage that you have out there, and that, we're talking about removing it because of, I mean, you're welcome to do that.
Okay.
You certainly are on the tree commission, and you can say with some authority that we will take the sign down if it doesn't serve our purpose. So I don't know if that'll spur them to do anything, but you can talk to them about it.
Okay.
And then I am personally interested in more information on the signage question, because it would be, I can see that it would be beneficial to have a way to award a business, or whatever, a park that, is just a great asset to the community by what they've done with their trees. I like the idea of that, but we need criteria, and we need some kind of a review process, and then we have to actually have a mechanism to, order the signs and then put the signs up. So there's a couple of steps there that we need to figure out. And I think that probably a committee would be the best place to deal with this. So why don't we look at this again next month? I'm going to be following up with all of the tree commissioners individually to see kind of what committees you might be interested in serving on. And I think this might be something that we could refer to a committee for some more work. Is that okay, Louise?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know it's probably, I may have opened up a can of worms, but
No, I mean, this is something we need to talk about. We really should have this information. So we're going to work towards getting it. Okay.
okay. Thank you so much.
Hey, you and I are supposed to talk tomorrow morning, right? Okay. So we'll talk some more about it.
Okay.
Okay, so that brings us to the announcements. I real quick wanted to just make an announcement that back at the end of January, I just kind of took the initiative and created a page for the Mobile Tree Commission on Facebook. I realize there's a ton of different social media outlets. Facebook seems to be the most prominent and the most widely used. It seems to be a great way to communicate and it's free for in most cases. So went ahead and created a Facebook page called Mobile Tree Commission. You're welcome to look it up and like our page, and please share our page so that we can grow the audience. But I went ahead and did that because it was something easy to do, and I feel like maybe even overdue for us to be using social media to communicate. This is also important for why it's important for us to have a working public relations committee and other committees so that our message can be managed and promoted in a professional way, hopefully. So that is an announcement that I wanted to make. And then also, looks like there will be a virtual native plant conference on March the 12th through the 14th. There are some, this is going to be believed through the Birmingham Botanical Gardens, but it looks like it's going to be a great conference. And then also coming up in October, we are going to have the Alabama Urban Forestry Association annual conference. This is going to be held in Orange Beach this year. Again, it's October the 11th through the 15th. Usually they have a tree board academy as a single day within that conference. And I want to encourage all the tree commissioners to try and let's attend that tree board academy, especially because it's going to be here on the Gulf Coast, and we can hopefully get to it easier. I recognize that it is a weekday, and last time I went to this, I had to take a day off from work, so it would certainly be, I think, worth doing, especially since we have such far notice. But we'll be talking more about that as we get closer to it, and that's all the announcements that I have currently. Does anyone else have any announcements? Nobody has an announcement? Okay. All right. Well, just again, want to say thank you to Peter Toller and his scouts who met myself and Teresa at the Boynton Oak the other day to do some work. We picked up trash and we did some air spading around the tree. We're really excited about the work that we were able to do to help the tree, and I think we have a little more work to do over there. So you guys kind of stay tuned, and we will touch base with you again in the near future about some follow-up work that we need to do there, as well as over at the Duffy Oak. So just wanted to make that announcement. In the near future, we'll be doing that. Okay, that was a long meeting, but I think we made it through. If nobody else has any other announcements, I'm going to ask for a motion that we adjourn.
So moved.
Yeah, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourn, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say no.